Well, we're happy with you. Here's the cookbook that all those recipes came from, including that decadent chocolate brownie, which was off the hook. All of the grains, everything we have for cookbooks. So please come see me afterwards. We have the double pleasure here today. Dave Barry's brother Sam works for Book Passage. I know. We also get to spend time day in and day out with a very, very funny, very kind, rambunctious man. So he is going to come up and introduce his brother Dave, and also Sam. Many of you may not know this, heads our Path to Publishing program. So if there's any fledgling writers out there, or writers who want to kickstart their careers, flock to Sam after the luncheon. He'll be more than welcome to have you there. Sam has a t-shirt on that I hope that he's been modeling for you as he walks through lunch. I think we also all want one of those. So please a round of applause.
Yeah. Can you see the shirt? Can you see the shirt? And they said, take it off. That sort of defeats the purpose of the shirt.
Pandemonium would ensue.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it would be so exciting if I took off my shirt. Wow. Middle-aged man takes off shirt at a bookstore. Evening news. So I am indeed Sam Barry, Dave Barry's brother. And people often ask me what it's like to be Dave Barry's brother. And amazing, because he's an amazing brother. In fact, he's a great guy. Oh, I'm not kidding. He's such a great guy. But he's also a great writer. And he's written, you all got a copy of the book, right? Yeah. Turn to the inside section there. And there's like the page where they also by Dave Barry Day is about 3 pages in after the title page. And he's written 3 million books, you'll see. I'm not exaggerating. There are 3 million books. Almost everyone has in the title Dave Barry. I worked in marketing for many years, and that's a trick. They also often put a picture of Dave Barry. So Dave, though, has finally written a self-help book. We were all waiting for that. And this is a parenting guide that he's written. I mean, he's going to tell you all about it. And he's a great writer. He won the Pulitzer Prize. To his everlasting shame, the New York Times called him the funniest man in America. He pointed out that the New York Times is not really the arbiter of humor. But, you know, the Onion would be better. But, yeah, the Onion often quotes Dave or just steals stuff from him, which I've noticed a lot of people do. But, so my brother's great, and he's funny. So I'm going to let him do that. But I do want to tell you one more thing. Which is the shirt. Is, you know, the shirt, you probably cannot read the motto, but it says Dave Barry for President, and it has a picture of Dave when he was 9 years old. Actually, Dave looks like that when he was 40. But it says, his motto is it's time we demanded less. So, some of you know that I play the harmonica. I was going to bring Dave up to that, but then I forgot to tell him that was his cue. So I'll bring him up to some blues. Thank you, Brother Sam. That is actually, believe it or not, that's my high school yearbook photo. And people wonder how you become a humorist, since you look like that when you're in high school. And I am running president. That's true. I should. Thank you. And well, I guess I should. I guess your vote now. I'll tell you, but I should tell you where I stand on the issues. And I want to stress I'm not one of those wishy-washy, hold your finger to the wind politicians. I lay it out on the table and take it or leave it. I agree with you. Everything. If you change your mind, let me know. I do have some views. Okay, on medical care, a big issue in the country. I believe, and I feel very strongly about this, we're approaching it the wrong way.
my highest priority if I were the president, we would have the medical profession find a way to get to the prostate gland other than the way they get to People say, what do you want? I'll tell you what men want. We want a procedure where the doctor stands 85 yards away. Looks good from here, Dave. That's a horrible part of the I mean, every man knows what I'm talking about. You take that moment, they always say it to the end.
Try
Doctor,
a mammogram.
I would challenge you on that, okay? I'll get a mammogram if you get a prostate issue. But it's always at the end of the exam because the doctor doesn't like it any more than you do, and you have to turn around and he's putting on the glove, and it's a tense moment. Nobody likes it. And my doctor in Miami is named Kurt Hamburg, and the first time I ever had an exam with him, we came to that moment, and I'm turned around, I'm all tense, and he's putting on the glove. And here's how he chose to relax me. He said, "You know, Dave, when you should feel nervous is when you feel both my hands on your shoulders." I will acknowledge women have it worse when it comes to basic medical procedures than men do. I have seen childbirth at close range a couple of times, and you would never have me to do that. And here's the thing about it. I was stunned because I think women are more modest and dignified than men inherently. And when I see what they do to you when you're going through childbirth, when you're in contractions, you're vulnerable, you're weak, you're exhausted, you're in pain, and they put you in this position which cannot have been thought of by a woman. There's absolutely nothing left to the imagination. And then when they have this poor vulnerable woman, they bring in people from all over the hospital to take a gander. You know, they go, "What do you think, Bob? Does that look like 5 centimeters, Steve?" "I don't know, man. I'm a janitor. That's it." "Hey, we got a school tour group here. Hey. Good studying metric system." Anyway, so I won't talk about I'm going to talk about Sam's right about the title thing. And this title is a little misleading in that it makes it look as though the book is all about parenting. It's not. It's actually a series of essays, pretty much unrelated one to the other. But one of them is about parenting, and that's the one they chose to make the title. I proposed some other titles, and as Sam points out, they all have to have the word Dave Barry. But that's not my idea. But one of them I said, let's call it Dave Barry's Vague General Book of Humor Topics. Which summarizes everything I've ever written. The one I really like, the branding one that I proposed, Dave Barry, a Dave Barry book by Dave Barry. And then the one I most pushed for, but they rejected, was Dave Barry. You probably thought he was dead. I also rejected that. But anyway, so the title essay basically refers to my daughter, Sophie, who is 14. She's 14 years old. She was 13 when I wrote the essay. And it basically was a reaction to the change that came upon her when she went through puberty, which I hope we find a cure someday. And I've seen puberty from both sides. I have a son, an older son, and he went through, but with boys, it's just not that big a deal. They get to be larger. First of all, it takes forever. Forever, they're like still. And they've just basically been larger and hairier and smellier boys. But they're still boys. They still never look at you or talk to you or anything. Girls, it's very rapid and they suddenly become women. They're just women walking around and it's completely, you're in a whole different world from them. You no longer really, I don't have much of a connection with her. She's busy, she's very busy. She is best friends with every other 14-year-old girl in North America. And they stay in touch on their phones all the time. They take pictures of themselves about every 5 to 10 seconds. And send them to all their friends. So they're really, really busy and they don't have time for their parents. Thus, they're not interested in their parents anyway. Like my daughter is in a soccer team, and so sometimes I drive the soccer carpool. So we drive in a car, and it'll be like 5 or 6 14-year-old girls, and they're all on their phones, they're all singing and talking on their phones, texting each other, even though they're sitting right next to each other. They're talking and texting each other, and they don't know I'm there. And I'm just not part of the 14-year-old girl universe at all. They don't know who's steering the car. That's where it's going. The car just goes where they need it to go, and they get out of it, talking on the. And like if I make a mistake every now and then, I'll say something, which is a horrible faux pas. I'll say, well, who's that? Who said that? They would prefer, my daughter certainly would prefer, if I actually were not in the car, if I were like running alongside, steering through the I don't mind that. I knew that was coming. I'm ready for that. What I really mind, and that's what really led to the title of the book, is the boys. Boys. Against boys. And I say this because I'm a male, I've been a male my entire life, and I know how we think. Okay? And we're scum. As a gender, males are scum. We're a bad gender. I didn't know how we happened. I don't want to surround my daughter. I'm not kidding. You think this is jokes. It's not. That's how I feel. And so what I would do, the boys, they didn't used to be any boys around. Never. Now they're all around all the time. They're on the lawn. They're on the roof. They're in the trees. They're like squirrels out there. The boys. And my solution would be a trap. A humane, large steel trap, which I would put out by the front door and bait with something that would attract 14-year-old boys, like something stupid like fireworks. And then I'd hear the trap clang shut, and I would go out, and there'd be a boy. And I live in Miami, so I would drive him out to the Everglades and release him in the humane way. Out there. But my wife, who's a woman, and has been her whole life, therefore doesn't know what boys are thinking, lets them into the house. Just lets them come in right through the door. And so I'll come into the TV room, and there'll be my daughter sitting on the exact same sofa as a boy. And I don't know. I would like him to be on first of all, a different piece of furniture. Ideally in a different city. Duluth would be fine. They're on the same sofa, and I don't own a firearm. I'm probably the only person in Miami who doesn't. And I would never shoot anybody. Okay. But I would like to have a firearm in these situations when it's like to saunter through the TV room, chat, and maybe accidentally discharge it into the ceiling. So the boy would understand two things: one, I have a firearm, and two, I don't really have control over it. So that's. But I love my daughter, and I prove it in another essay I wrote in this book. I took her to a Justin Bieber concert. Yes, this was last year when she was 13 and she loved Justin Bieber. Now she's 14 and she doesn't love Justin Bieber anymore. His loss. She loves something called One Direction now. There's 5 of them. So. But last year she loved Justin Bieber, and so for her big present for the year, we spent like $112,000 to buy Justin Bieber tickets and went to the Justin Bieber concert. And I had been in a hurricane. I was in Hurricane Andrew, which up to that moment up to that point in my life was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. Until I got to a Justin Bieber concert. 17,000 people, but 8 of them were dads. The rest of them were screaming girls, and really loud. And just the one girl to my right, I don't know who she was. Made more noise than Hurricane Andrew. I love you, because it was not a happy noise. The way 14, 15-year-old girls express joy, rapturous joy, is that they make the same sound you would make if your feet were being gnawed off by weasels. It's a loud, unhappy sound. It's very loud. And it went on for like the whole concert, and there'd be all these crescendos because it's not like the old days when you went to see a band and the band held still in one place, like you could see the Rolling Stones and they were attached to their instruments and they couldn't go anywhere. He couldn't go anywhere if he wanted to, really. Mick would prance around a little bit, but basically the band held still back in the golden age of rock. Now it's like a track meet. They run around just like his dancers were the backup dancers. I don't know why he needs dancers. And they run over here and they run over here and run. They're just sprinting back and forth the whole concert long to sort of distract yourself from the fact that their music sucks. The music which they're they're actually not singing anything. The computer in the back is actually singing. And there's this ring, and then they're like, every time they run past, the screams would erupt, you know. And then the biggest scream of the night, he took off his shirt. Justin Bieber took off his shirt. And he's not Channing Tatum. He has the same physique as the Geico Gecko. So that's another essay. There's an essay on here on aging and death. Which maybe doesn't sound like a paper topic, but I wrote about it anyway because I'm a baby boomer. And we, you know, as we know, a lot of you are baby boomers. We invented everything. We invented childbirth. Nobody ever had babies until we did. We all wrote about it and talked about it, like our, you know, and now no other generations ever died before we. We're the first generation get old, and you hear a lot about us getting old and dying. We're the boomers, and that's what we do. We talk about ourselves. So I wrote about it, and like some of the things that happen as you age, the moment, the worst moment, when you begin to realize you're getting old, is right when you turn 50, and it's like a moment everybody dreads, and it happens to everybody. You get a letter from Art, which of course the last sound you make before you die. He's talking over here. It's also an acronym stands for the American Association of Retired People, standing in line ahead of you, asking for a discount on every freaking thing. I have nothing against ARP. ARP is a wonderful organization. I have a problem with my being asked to join it, because I'm a baby boomer, and the key to our demographics, no matter how old and pathetic, wretched, and senile, and incontinent we get, we think we're cool. Being asked to join these organizations, membership includes these guys. I see them all the time because I live in South Florida. These guys who wear their waistbands up around their armpits. Apparently, in some cases, you have to need emergency open heart surgery and just unzip your fly. So I read about my funeral. I have my plan for my funeral, which is going to begin. I have a very detailed plan in the book for how it's going to go. It's going to start with mimes coming down the aisle carrying the casket. And the reason they're going to be mimes is there will be no casket. Okay? I'm just going to mime that they have to put it down. You know. And if they start doing any other mime things like pretending they're stuck in a glass box, I'm going to have Navy SEAL snipers. I thought of everything. An essay on what men are thinking in the book. What men are thinking. The answer, I'll summarize it, very little. My theory is men don't think nearly as much as women do. They don't think as much, we don't feel as much. It's just less going on with this. And women are always asking, you know, like to share. Why don't you share your feelings? We don't have that. To share it with you, you know. Women always assume we do. Like, what are you thinking? Nothing. Well, who is she? You know. I don't believe it. But it's true. If you were to look in the minds of the men in this audience right now, many of them are just going, Women can't do that. Women never stop thinking, ever. Based on my wife, she never stops thinking. Never. Thinking all that. And if you take a man and a woman and they sit down in a room together for an hour, in that hour, the woman will have literally thousands of thoughts. Well, why did she say that to me? Well, I'm impressed because I said that to her, but I can't say it. That's what I do sometimes. And each thought, for more thoughts and more thoughts and more thoughts and more thoughts. Thousands of thoughts. Like a reaction of thoughts going on. The woman's brain just like exploding with thoughts. In the same hour, the man might have one coherent thought. Something along the lines of, my balls itch. I also talk, I have another essay about what women think. And really, actually, it was more of an attempt on my part to figure out what women think. And to do that, I read the book 50 Shades of Grey. An essay about that. How many of you in this audience read the book 50 Shades of Grey? All right, we got some people. I'm glad you did, because I want you to back me up on what I'm about to say. Like 100 million books. This is the best-selling book in modern times. Almost all the people who bought that book and read it were women. So I was like, what is it about this book that is so powerfully attractive and appealing to women? So I read the book, and here's the plot. Spoiler alert. this woman, who is kind of a ninny in my opinion, but very attractive according to everybody in the book who talks to her. Of course, she's the narrator, so she's telling you that. Gets into a relationship with this man. He is a really attractive, he's hot. He's a hot billionaire. Hot 27-year-old billionaire. Just a typical guy, you know. And we know he's hot because even though she tells us she's not shallow or anything, she cannot stop telling you how hot and billionaire this guy is. So anyway, so they develop this attraction. But here's the thing, he wants to tie her up and hit her. Right? Am I, women who've read the book, this is correct. This is not, essentially, that's what he wants to do. He wants to tie her up and hit her. He really likes her. He wants to show his love by tying her up and hitting her. And he actually wants her to sign a contract, which is in the book. So if you need a contract like that, it's in the book that says you can tie me up and hit me. Seriously. I mean. So basically for 300 pages, this is what happens. Boy, he's a hot billionaire, I'm attracted to him. Boy, we're gonna have sex, boy, that's great. But he wants to tie me up and hit me, that's woo! But he's a really hot billionaire. You're gonna say, oh, that was great. But he wants to tie me up and hit me. But he's a really hot billionaire. On and on and on for 300 pages. Okay? Again, women who read the book, is that not basically the plot of the book? Okay, then comes the end of the book. Now here's the real spoiler alert. She lets him tie her up and hit her. And it hurts. She doesn't like it. So she breaks up with him. That's the end of the book. That's the book. That's the book. 100 million women bought that book and loved it. And I'm saying, why exactly was that so, you know? And so I asked my wife, I said, who's not read the book, I said, do you secretly want me to tie you up and hit you? So there's basically what I learned is there's three things. You know, hot, billionaire, tie you up and hit you. Only one of the three I can do is the third. And my wife doesn't want that. So I don't know. I guess what we learned is women want a hot billionaire. Okay. Whoa, knock me down with a feather. I have an essay about Israel. I'm skipping some of there's a bunch of essays. But I've been essaying about Israel. I went to Israel last summer with a temple that I belong to. I am not Jewish. In fact, Sam and our dad was a Presbyterian minister. And we're both going to hell. But my wife is Jewish. She's Cuban Jewish. Cuban, they call her. Because a lot of them in Miami, they didn't come over on rafts. They parted the Caribbean. And so she's Jewish, our daughter's being raised Jewish. And so anyway, I belong to we belong to a temple. They let me in a very relaxed temple. And so we went to Israel, and it was a very interesting trip. And I wrote a long essay about Israel, some of which was serious, some of which was not. But I learned some important things, did a lot of interesting things. One of which was ride a camel. If you ever get a chance to ride a camel, don't do it. Here's what happens. It's like a tourist thing you do. You know, you're in your tour bus, you go to the Negev Desert, and these Bedouin have this like camel riding concession. And they have a train of 20 camels tied nose to tail, and they kneel down, and they have saddles on. You get on 2 people per camel, and then you get up, and then you go around like this half-mile track, and then you're done with your camel ride. But here's the thing. So the camel's kneeling down, and rough get on, and the Bedouin guy is saying, giving us little instructions, pre-ride instructions. He goes, do not scream when camel is getting up. Camel is getting up a little funny. And I'm like, well, how bad can it be? Because it's terrifying when the camel gets up. You know, and all of a sudden you're 25 feet in the air. You know, people on the ground look like ants. You know, and then the camel starts to walk. And it's like, not a comfortable ride. And after like we're done, you're thinking like, man, this is how these people are getting around. No wonder this area of the world is so tense. There's an essay on how to be a professional author, something my brother Sam knows a lot about. I wrote a thorough advice, and I try to be realistic. Say you're not going to be Stephen King right away. It can take like 6 to 8 months. All my instructions. No. And that essay on manliness in the book, which is, my premise in there is that we're not as manly as preceding generations. I talk about Sam's and my father, who was a Presbyterian minister, as I said, and not trained in carpentry or anything like that, but he built our house. He didn't have any money. We lived in this little town, Armont, New York, and so he did it. You know, he dug the foundation, he put the water. And our memories of being kids is our dad always working on the house, we would work on. So the house was really pretty shitty. But he built it, you know. And I could not do that. I mean, I consider myself really, really manly when I successfully install an app on my phone. So I have an essay about manliness, about how to do manly, how to become more manly. How to cook a steak, how to order wine, how to jumpstart a car, how to do emergency first aid, and all these things explained in great detail. What do you do if you get lost in the woods, lost in the wilderness? I'll give you the quick answer there. If you get lost in the wilderness anywhere in North America, first of all, don't panic. Just start running and screaming. And within 20 minutes, if you are in North America, you will come to a Starbucks. So I'm going to read you a couple of excerpts, and then I'll take your questions. And the first excerpt is about aging, from the essay on aging and death. And I want to talk about this one thing that happens to you when you get older, you be my age, which is a bad thing happens to your memory. Starts to go. And you know, I just experienced, like, you know, you're saying, you're talking to somebody, you can't come up with a name, you go, and even that hurts because you have arthritis. You know, the guy in the place with the thing. He starts this game of charades. And 20 minutes later, they figure out that you mean Hitler. But then you can't remember what you're trying to say about Hitler. So anyway, so I'm writing a little essay about that, and this part of the essay talks about something that actually happened to me, involving that. I'm not kidding about the forgetfulness. Here's a recent example. Every morning after I feed in this order the tropical fish, the dog, and my daughter, I go out and get the newspaper. Every morning I have done this for centuries. So one recent morning I was in the kitchen and the various pets and offspring were eating breakfast, and I said to my wife, quote, "I'm going to get the newspaper." My wife gave me a look and said, "You already got the newspaper." She then pointed to the newspaper, which she was reading. It was lying on the kitchen counter where I had just placed it after bringing it in from outside. So I said, quote, "Ha ha," indicating that I was not at all alarmed by this minor brain fart. What I meant, I was well along the road to becoming a drooling fossil doddering around with poop in his undershorts. Then I poured myself a cup of coffee. Then, this was at most 90 seconds later, I thought to myself, quote, "Hey, I need to go get the newspaper." So I went to the front door, opened it, and stepped outside. It was only then that I remembered that I had just made a fool of myself by declaring to my wife, who was reading the newspaper I had just brought inside, that I was going outside to get the newspaper. I turned around and I saw that my wife was watching me. This was a tricky moment. A moment when quick thinking was required to establish that I had not morphed into the late Walter Brennan, or for you younger readers, was an actor who portrayed a fantastically old rural coot on an early 60s TV sitcom called The Real McCoys. Here is what the shriveled husk of what was once my brain came up with for me to say as I stood there in the doorway, looking at my wife, looking at me. Quote, "I'm just checking the weather. It's gonna be warm." This was a statement of spectacular idiocy. We live in South Florida. It has been warm here for 530 million consecutive years. Going outside to see if this trend is continuing, especially if you have just been outside, it's not unlike randomly jumping into the air every few seconds to determine whether gravity is still working. My wife, to her credit, resisted the urge to say anything. And there are definitely things she could have said, such as, "Have you also pooped your underwear?" Later that day, however, out of the blue, she said, You weren't checking the weather. No, I admitted. I'm going senile. Then we both laughed, but not that hard. And the next line is a segue. Speaking of not that hard, I hate Viagra commercials. Then I go into a rant about Viagra commercials, which I have a couple of problems with. One is I don't understand why we have to see them at all, ever, on our television sets with our family in the room. Why do we need that? But the other thing is, I just don't like the way they portray guys. I really don't. I find them offensive. And the one that really sets me off is the one you've probably seen. It's the rangy cowboy driving a pickup truck across the West, towing 2 horses in a trailer. And he gets stuck, okay? Gets stuck, which is a metaphor. Okay? So, the announcer at that point says, "You've reached the age where you don't back down from a challenge." Which is such a crock. The whole advantage of being an older guy is you back right down from challenges. Because you're not a moron anymore. Young guys don't back down from challenges, old guys do. And so one way we're superior. And if you have any doubt about that, go to YouTube and search for any combination of the phrase, "shoot bottle rockets out of ass." You will find there's not hundreds of videos of people shooting bottle rockets out of their asses. It goes without saying they're all males. Women would never, ever do that. Okay? We already established women are better than men. But it's all males, but they're all young males. Why? Because they don't back down from a challenge. I bet you can't shoot a bottle rocket out of there. Yeah, I bet you I can. Challenge an older guy to do that. He's going to say, no, I don't want to go to the emergency room with a bottle rocket. To go back into the commercial, the guy, he gets out of his problem by he gets the horses out of the trailer and hitches them to the pickup truck and pulls himself out of the mud or whatever. Then he has sex with the horses. Viagra was turned into a stud. He can't help himself. No, we don't actually see that part. We don't really know. We don't know if that happens. We do know he gets lonely out west. And we know there are no women in this commercial. So. And the other thing I want to read, part of an essay I wrote about air travel. I've traveled a lot by air. I'm doing that right now with a book tour. And I'm always fascinated by the way people behave in airports. I believe that there must be some kind of giant IQ reduction ray beaming down on the airport, because there's no other way to explain how stupid people get when they are required to take airplanes. Things that it's baffled them, like two. The concept of two. Like, they make it very clear when you get on a plane, you can take 2 things on the plane with you. They say that over and over. You get 2 things. 2. That concept. And inevitably, there are people who get up there with 3 things or 4 things. I mean, we've all seen that. And they go, you can't take that in. You have 3 things. You can only take 2 things on the plane. But I have 3 things. You know that, but the rule is you can only take 2 things on the plane, as we told you several times. But I have 3 things. You know, very difficult for people. So I have an essay about air travel. It's in the form of a Q&A advice to air travelers. I'm just going to read you the section on airport security. Q. What are the do's and don'ts of airport security screening? We'll start with a do. Relax. Airport security is handled by the Transportation Security Administration, which is an agency of the federal government. Motto, a gigantic impersonal bureaucracy working for you. Some TSA procedures may seem ridiculous, but remember this. There are real terrorists out there, and it's the TSA's job to make sure that these terrorists do not get on an airplane until they have fully complied with TSA procedures. In fact, no terrorist has ever boarded a domestic flight with more than 3.4 ounces of toothpaste, as far as we know. Make sure your carry-on luggage does not contain any prohibited items, including liquids, gels, gases, or solids. If you plan to wear underwear, wear it on the outside of your undergarments so that it's clearly visible to the TSA. Remove all shoes, belts, sweaters, coats, hats, wigs, eyeglasses, contact lenses, hearing aids, insulin pumps, artificial limbs, pacemakers, and donated organs such as kidneys, and place these in the bins provided. Then shuffle or crawl slowly forward in the security line with your head down, taking care not to appear suspicious or make eye contact with anyone. The heart of the screening procedure is when you go into the scanner, which sounds scary, although in fact it's nothing more than a giant microwave oven that bombards your body with atomic radiation. But there's no need to worry. The scanner is completely safe for humans, as long as A, you do not remain in there longer than the recommended 0.8 of a second, and B, TSA agents have remembered to change the power setting from popcorn back to humans after their break. The scanner serves a vital security function. It sees through your clothing and captures an image of your naked body, which is transmitted to a room where specially trained TSA agents decide whether to post it on Facebook. If you would prefer not to have this happen, simply ask to have an agent grope your genitals manually. It's your right. So that'll give you an idea. We have a little time. I'll take some questions if anybody has any. Yeah, way in the back.
Does the United States need more government or less government?
Well, it depends how you feel about the government. If you want the United States to function better, probably less. But if you're a humor writer, it's a vital source. I always consider, I say I don't view the government as, I view it as a source of entertainment. And I feel I'm getting my entertainment from the federal government. Yes.
Do your alert readers really exist?
Yeah, I don't write a regular weekly column anymore, but I very often got tons of mail, and I would always credit people when I would use their newspaper clipping suggestions for articles, which was a lot of the time, and I call them alert readers and just send them cards saying, yes, they exist, and they're real. I didn't make them up.
Why do you live in Florida?
Why do I live in Florida? So kind of the same reason I like the federal government. It's very entertaining. I live in Miami. I moved there in 1986 from the United States. And it is a mother load of humor material. It really is. Rich source. I'll just give you one example. I could give you hundreds of things that I can't believe would happen anywhere except where I live. This happened like 3-4 years ago. 2 homeless guys were fishing in Biscayne Bay, which runs along right next to the city of Miami, and they caught a 6-foot nurse shark. So they wanted to take it to some fish wholesalers on the Miami River, which is on the other side of the city, to sell it and make some money. But they had no transportation, 2 homeless guys. So they decided to take the shark on the People Mover, which is this little train that goes around downtown, not really designed for marine life. Why we call it the People Mover. And so they take this thing onto the People Mover, and it's not dead yet. I know this because I got a phone call and a text from a lady I knew was on that very train. There's a shark on the People Mover. A little bit. I was like, I'm not saying it was a happy shark, but it was on. So we could have had a shark attack on the People Mover. Tragically, we did not. But we could have. And so anyway, they were unable to sell it because nobody wanted this skanky old shark by the time you got it over. So they left it downtown, left it on the street. It remained overnight. Next day, people started reporting there's a shark on the street. And so Miami Herald did a story about it the next day. My favorite quote came from one of the local merchants who said, I was upset when I saw it at first because I thought it was a dead body. But it turned out it was just a shark. Feel good story, Miami style. But I could stand here for an hour and tell you nothing but stories just as weird as that, and that's why I love Miami. It's not a boring place, Miami. It's the most interesting place I've ever lived. Yes?
Do your daughter have a bat mitzvah? And if so, do you have any advice for?
Yes, my daughter did have a bat mitzvah, and my advice is have plenty of money. It's kind of like the Normandy invasion with more flowers. A lot that goes into the planning of the bat mitzvah. I kind of got left out of it because I'm a male, so I was not really allowed to participate in the who's sitting where discussions. But wow, it was pretty intensely complicated for a while there. It's over now, fortunately. Thank you. Yes.
Can you explain the roots of your feelings about squirrels?
Can I explain the roots of my feelings about squirrels? Well, I kind of exaggerate my antipathy towards squirrels, but let's be honest, squirrels are rats that run around. And because they have long bushy tails instead of long skinny skin tails, we like them. But if they change their tails, which I think they do at night when we're not looking, they're just rats running around. And that's why I feel pretty strongly about them. Why? You like them? You're on their side? They think people on their side. Yes.
One of the reasons why you're so enormously funny is because you have a chain of logic, and in the end, you completely exploded in a direction that was not expected at all. And what I'm wondering is
Drugs. It's really more of a flaw than
how long does it take you to think? I mean, how
I don't know what your question is. Because you're accusing me of not having a thought process. I'm just kind of talking there, but there's no real question for me. Here. Was there a question?
how long does it take you? I mean, by now, is it just like you can just think of these things instantly? I mean, to write like that is really, really hard.
Thank you. Yes, it is. Very hard work. It's like coal mining. But harder because they don't have to come up with punchlines. They just have to get coal. You know? It's right there. You know? Why do they always say it's so hard? There's a whole mine full of it, you know? There's no punchline mine. No. You're asking a really hard, and nobody knows. Really, nobody knows the answer to that. You know why some people do that and some people don't. My contention is the main reason I do it is I have no other use. I have no useful skill at all. I'm sitting there in front of my computer. And then thinking, wow, if I don't come up with something to say here, I will have to get a job. It's a powerful incentive. So anyway, Elaine over there is giving me the eyeball.
No, I am not. I'm enjoying
Yes, you
it.
are. So I'll take maybe one more question. Yeah.
All right, so for young people, say, who might want
Like
to...
you, a young person.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true. An outlier who might want to be like you someday.
Like
What
me?
is the best way to get your name as the title of a book? A comedy book.
This is what you have to ask my brother Sam. He's the expert on it. But are you writing humor now?
Yes.
Or are you one of those people who just wants to do it but
No,
haven't
I
actually
write
done it? What?
I write humor.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, then you're on your way. Just keep writing humor. And if it's funny, you know, more and more, that it is funny, right? The humor you write. That's kind of one of the key again. Yeah. But don't be discouraged. I will tell you, because I remember when I started writing my humor column, as it is now, I started writing it back when I worked for a newspaper in Pennsylvania called the Daily Local News. And yes, it's in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Daily News was not a highly professional operation. While I was there, we ran a headline that said, "Woman beats off would-be rapist." That was an actual headline in the Daily Local News. But anyway, I was a general assignment reporter there, and I could write. I had to write obituaries and cover, fires, and I did all that stuff, which was a great experience, and I recommend it to anyone. But also because it was a little paper, I could do. They let you do other things if you were done with all your work, and that's when I started really writing my humor column. I would write this little op-ed humor column once a week, and I thought it was funny. And so I did one, and I thought it was pretty good. Did another one, I thought it was pretty good. The third one I ran. It ran, and that would happen to be the day of the Daily Local News Christmas party at Joe's Sportsman's Lounge in Westchester, Pennsylvania, where they get hammered. And my editor of the time, his name was Hannah Gardner, came over to me, weeping a little bit, and said, "I need to talk to you about your column." And I go, "What?" And she goes, "It used to be funnier." That was my third, 1974 5, I don't know. So and I've been hearing that for the whole rest of my life. So you just sort of have to keep at it, you know, keep going, keep going. And so I know it's probably like you look at me, I you know, I have my name in a book and you're just getting started. I just want to say from the heart, neener, neener, neener. You'll do fine. Anyway, thanks to Elaine and for having me, Elaine and Bill, and Book Path. Thank you all for coming out. And I don't know what the plan is.